be spirited? Do you want them to be more engaged in just learning? Do you want them to be the type of students that ask a lot of questions, or do you want... Next, I'm going to be talking about teacher recs, which in the chronological order of how I've been going, you'd probably want to get these set up in the end of junior year. So if you're college touring spring break, come back from spring break a couple of months before school starts. Probably if you end in May, ask early May, just say, hey, you know, I've really enjoyed you as a teacher. I think we've gotten along really well and I really respect a lot of things you've taught me. Would it be possible to get a college recommendation letter from you? And then it's really helpful sometimes for teachers because they can get started over the summer, so give them any necessary info. If they want you to fill out a sheet for them, if they just want you to send you their college list so they can get a feel for when they need to be done by. Start tentatively just setting that kind of stuff up. Don't worry about it over the summer unless they contact you, and then in the fall continue talking to them. Make sure they really know a lot about you, they know what kind of student you are, and give them any information they need. As far as who should give the rec, if you aren't really comfortable with any teachers, just a general guideline, you should have one humanities and then one STEM. So what that means is basically, if you only need 2 recs for most of your schools, some schools only need 1 rec, but if you only need 2 recs, one should be from a math or science or computer science or engineering, that kind of teacher, and then one should be from humanities, so English, social studies, language, anything like that. I wouldn't go for music teachers, PE teachers, even theater. Like I wouldn't go for those kind of teachers. Really someone that sees you in a traditional classroom environment and knows what your work ethic is like. You can also get a recommendation letter from someone outside of your school. So if you want to get one from your, basketball coach that's in a different league, like you can get one from those, from that kind of person. If you want to get one from like your debate club, like coach kind of person, like that's fine. I didn't do that just because I thought 2 was enough to represent who I am, and I don't really think that they would have said much more other than what the other 2 people were already saying. So if you think they have a really different perspective on who you are, go for it. But otherwise, don't flood colleges with information about you. They don't want to read more than they have to. As far as just following up with them, if you need to have your stuff in by November 1st for early schools, just be checking in with them throughout October. Email them politely and just say, hey, just checking up to see if you need anything else from me. My college due date is this date, and I just want to make sure it's online. Recommendation letters are usually submitted online, except for I think like maybe MIT. I didn't apply to MIT, but I think they had to mail them in for that. But most of the time it's online. So just if you're applying to any schools off the Common App, it's really important that you tell them that. Like Georgetown, you have to send them a separate email that they then attach their, Word document to. So just stay on top of that. I'm pretty sure your teachers know how to handle it. Okay, and then continuing back to kind of editing down your college list after you've gotten into the fall of senior year, even summer, like in August, I kind of wanted to check out what the supplements were like. I haven't talked about this, but the Common Application is what you'll be using for most of your schools, and that opens on August 1st. You can create an account, and then schools will start kind of rolling out with their supplemental essay prompts and stuff. September, maybe even October-ish. Maybe even August. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the time limit anymore, but you definitely want to get your list narrowed down as soon as possible. So this was one of the hardest things for me, actually. I got through testing, I got through my grades. Teacher recs were no problem for me because I ended up being voted teacher's pet for my senior pop polls. Just not because I'm like a kiss ass. I just naturally like to build personal relationships with teachers, and I think I can learn a lot from them. It was really, really hard for me. I had a good 25 schools, and that was the one time that I ended up using a college counselor. I just went for one session for half an hour. I gave her my testing scores, I gave her my transcripts, I gave her a brief overview of kind of my extracurriculars, and then I gave her my list of 25 schools, and I basically just said, tell me which one of these is a reach, a target, and a safety. And if you're not familiar with those terms, well, you should be, because it's definitely important for your college list. A reach is a school that you really shouldn't be expecting anything from. You only need a couple of reaches. You don't want to fill your list with Ivy reaches. And just so you know, Ivies are reaches for everyone. Even if your ego is out of this world, it's still a reach for you because their acceptance rate is so low that you can slip through even if you're an amazing candidate. And then Target is a school that you see yourself kind of in the middle 50% range there, and you think you have a decent shot at. It could go either way, but like you're kind of on par with the student they like to see. And then Safety is a school that you should hopefully get into, and like you want to be counting on those schools. So I wasn't sure how to classify those because I didn't want to put myself into a category, so I gave that to her and she outlined all of those. And then from there she said, you know, you should have 1 or 2 safeties, and I think you should probably have like 3 safeties to be safe, but for me she said like 1 or 2 safeties are fine, because the safeties I was looking at, she was pretty sure they were going to accept me. And then Target, you know, 4 or 5 maybe, 3 to 4 is even fine, 5 to 6, either 3 to 6 maybe, and then Reach is like 1 to 3. So then from there I just kind of narrowed it down. I ended up applying to 11 schools if you count the UCs, the California state schools. Count the UCs as 1 because that ended up only being 1 application, and then I just checked all of campuses. So I applied to 11 schools. I've seen kids apply to 23 schools, and I've seen kids apply to 6. And the 23 is a little overwhelming. I wouldn't want to concern myself with that many schools and be keeping that many dates in my head. The 6 is also a little concerning in that if they're not, a lot of them, if half of them aren't safeties, that could turn out scarily for you. I wanted to be really sure that I'd get into a school that I would love to go to, and that is a definite rule, is love thy safety. Really love your safety school, because in the end I've seen a lot of kids end up with just their safety. They gauged themselves at a different level than they were, and they ended up with just their safety. So if you really love your safety and you're excited to go to that school, my first acceptance was from my safety, Elon University, which Hello Katie X I was going to, and that was my first acceptance, and I totally would have gone there, but luckily I got into some schools that I saw as a little more like on par with the kind of environment I wanted to be at. But safeties are still great institutions, and you can still prosper just as well there. I understand that like you're gonna have some schools that you see as a little more like enticing. Overall, just kind of keep the list balanced. I had, you know, a few rural schools. I had a few, like, urban schools, just because I am not too picky, but definitely consider, if you only like one thing, consider that the programs are all similar for you in your field of study. Mine was business, so I wanted to make sure they all had undergraduate business programs. And I applied to Duke, which didn't have an undergrad business program. They only had a business certificate. And that ended up weighing pretty heavily on me, that I felt like I was wasting my time applying there just because they didn't have a program that I definitely knew I wanted to pursue. That being said, like, you can change your major a lot, and it does end up happening a lot. So programs important. You want to make sure they have a good source of programs, that you're not just stuck in one lane if you do think you want to change. So program, location, and size. Size of campus, size of student body, and then location, you know, country-wise, and then location, city, urban, urban, rural, suburban, that kind of thing. Keep that in mind if you want to have all your schools be the same type or have a little bit of a mix. Mine was a little bit of a mix. That way when I toured I can kind of say, alright, I like this kind better, and I wouldn't be stuck with like just one type. I don't know. So make a spreadsheet with that. Have a bunch of different columns. Put everything down. Put down the dates for applying early versus applying regular. Put down the size, how many students go there. Put down the tuition. Put down what they want from you. Do they want SAT and ACT? Or no one asked for that actually. Do they want SAT 2s? How many of those do they want? What kind of, you know, GPA is average there, what's their testing range. Put all the stuff you think you might want to consider in a spreadsheet, have it all laid out, and then decide from those schools. Is there always one that you've considered your most important school and the school you'd most love to go to and your number one by far, it's your dream school, and you think applying early would benefit you? I'm not going to talk about applying early too much just because there's a lot of difference. You can apply early action, which is just basically the same as regular action, except that there's fewer students applying and it's a couple months earlier, so you have to get your stuff in earlier. And then an early decision, which means that if you get in, you're definitely going. That's not the same with early action. Early action, you get in, you don't have to go, but early decision, you're applying early and you'd have to go if you get in. Definitely do your research with that kind of stuff. Decide if that's something you're comfortable with. For me, my dream school going into junior year was Duke. Like I said, I really loved Duke. They had been sending me a lot of pamphlets. The spirit was amazing. They have a great like Lemur Resource Center. I visited North Carolina and I really like it there. So it's beautiful. Love the school colors. The campus was gorgeous. The faculty is amazing. I really, really liked the school, and I considered it my #1. But I had this weird intuition when I was there, and they were talking about how the early decision acceptance rate was a lot higher than the regular decision, probably double. And I had this weird, like, intuition. You can call it cocky, and that's completely fine. I had this weird intuition that if I applied early, I would get in. And guess what? 3 kids applied early for my school, and all 3 of those kids got in early to Duke. And, like, every year 1 kid applies early, only 1 has ever gotten in the entire history of my school early. And this year, 3 applied early, and all 3 got in. So definitely if I had applied early, like, I can pretty safely tell you that I would have gotten in. So I'm glad I didn't, because I ended up a school I kind of like a lot better than Duke. And it does have a business program, so just be careful with that. And if you have any doubts, like, just don't do it. If it's early action, why not? Try it out. Yeah, you might as well get some responses early. That way you can kind of knock some out of the way and make sure that you know you will be going to college before most of the responses come back in April. And then for me, I made a tangible calendar that hung up on my room. I put all the dates that everything was due, and I can kind of, that way I could see as stuff was coming closer what I had to get done.